Good afternoon. Let's call today's Board of Trustees meeting to order at 4:02 p.m. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Filkowski,
Present.
Epic,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
McNamee, Nunley,
Here.
Sheets, Spence, Swanson, Zibble.
Here. Thank you, everyone. Ms. Spence and Mr. Swanson are not able to be here with us, nor is Mr. Dines. And we do have a attorney, Mr. Flynn, filling in from his office. So at this time, if we could please stand for the pledge.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Zibble, would you like to read the mission statement?
Laketran is committed to providing quality transportation services to all Lake County residents with special emphasis on meeting the transportation needs of seniors and people with disabilities.
Are there any public comments in the room today? Seeing none. The first item, is there a motion to approve the July 20th Laketran Board of Trustees work session meeting minutes? No, this is the July 20th work session meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Zibble. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Nunley. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee, Nunley, Sheets,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Is there a motion to approve the July 26th Laketran Board of Trustees board meeting minutes? Motion made by Ms. McNamee. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Zibble. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee, Nunley, Sheets,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the August 5th Laketran Board of Trustees special meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe this particular one you amended.
Okay.
There is no mention in this of the major thing that we discussed and we're pursuing to do to establish a committee to further study and discuss the building expansion.
Okay. So why don't we table these meeting minutes and have a closer look taken at that? Thank you very much for bringing that up.
You're very welcome. Do you need a motion to table?
No, we'll table it for now. I think we're good. Ben, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you for a recognition.
Yes, thank you, Brian. I am excited tonight to recognize one of our bus drivers, Wayne Schlee. Wayne, why don't you stand up for me so everybody can see you? You get to be on Browns fan through and through.
Go Browns.
Wayne was recently recognized by the Ohio Public Transit Association for a milestone award, which is recognized as someone who has made a significant career milestone within the public transit industry across the state. So Wayne has been with Laketran for 30 years. He's been serving the Lake County residents for 30 years, and he has 30 years of safe driving, which means he's had no accidents in that 30 years, which is a pretty impressive achievement for someone who's on the road 8 hours a day. Wayne has always stepped up for the community. He helped evacuate residents from Fairport Harbor when there were a series of fires began to engulf some apartments due to major gas leaks. There was a train derailment in Menor that he helped evacuate residents and pets from Heisley Park. And there were hazmat concerns during the time, so that's not a small thing. Early in his career, Wayne was quick to think and helped rescue crews provide transportation to a hospital or to a customer I can't talk right now. He helped provide help to a customer in need and get them to the hospital so that they were able to, continue their quality of life, and they ultimately didn't die. When a senior living community ran out of heat during the winter and frigid temperatures, he volunteered to transport people to the warming centers to stay warm. And then I don't know if anyone remembers when Hurricane Katrina hit, buses from all over the country were sent to New Orleans to help evacuate people and kind of provide disaster assistance. And Wayne was one of the ones who drove a Laketran bus to New Orleans to help people. So, Wayne's got a big heart. He's helped a lot of people in his career. And, Opta recognized him, and we thought it was appropriate for the board to recognize him. So I think, for myself and the board, I believe, just say thank you for all your hard work here at Laketran. You've been a great asset to the company, and, thanks a lot for everything. So we have a proclamation for you. We'll probably definitely get some pictures with you, but, I think just everybody could, give a round of applause to congratulate Wayne. So thanks a lot, Wayne. We appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for everything you've been doing. Thank you. At this time, is there a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to 121-22G of the ORC? Motion made by Ms. McNamee. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sheets. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee, Nunley, Sheets,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, we're going to invite our legal counsel and CEO to stay in the room.
Oh, okay. All right, so today we're just going to do a overview of Vanpool. So typically, what you would use a 7, 12, 15 passenger van or an accessible van for this type of service. It's where a group of people would live and work in approximately the same location, and they would commute together to save money. The group would set its own commute as far as pickup, drop off locations and the schedule. For starting a van pool, a minimum of 5 people are required to meet the federal definition of a van pool. So each group would have a bookkeeper and 2 drivers. So Laketran would actually approve and train each one of those drivers in the van pool. And each one of those van pools would be open to the public. So if somebody worked in a similar area as well as lived in a similar area, they could join that van pool. Thank you. So the passengers pay a fare depending on mileage and the number of riders in the van. There are some agencies who have actually moved towards a monthly fixed fare system, making it a little bit easier for the accounting in the back end. So those fares typically cover the costs of operating the van, including fuel, insurance, maintenance, and typically 25% of the administration costs. The passengers pay their fare at the beginning of the month, but are not required to ride. So you could pay your fare at the beginning of the month and just not ride at all. That's fine. Thank you. So Vanpool is actually not new to Laketran. In April of 1993, Laketran partnered with the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency, so NOACA, to subsidize Vanpool from Eastlake to the Lordstown General Motors plant. That partnership ended in 1997. I do not know why that partnership ended. All I have is ridership data from that. So in 2018, I actually went out to Washington on an education trip to Ben Franklin Transit and met with the van pool coordinators there, as well as Spokane Transit, King County Metro, so Seattle, and Pierce Transit. Next slide, please. So why are we talking about van pool right now? So the vans can operate any time of the day, giving second and third shift employees an opportunity to utilize public transportation when the traditional services are not operating. So currently, we are working with several companies that are members of the Alliance for Working Together here in Lake County. We are currently gathering information on interested businesses, as well as how many employees would potentially be interested at each location. Just-in-time staffing has also approached us. They are operating van pools right now, and they would like to not be operating van pools because that's not really their main business. They're more of a staffing agency. They did this out of necessity. So they have, for each one of these routes, so Painesville to Middlefield, Cleveland to Mentor, Painesville to Mentor, Painesville to Bedford Heights, they have anywhere from 1 to 3 vans on each route with 9 to 12 passengers on each van. Next slide, please. So possible next steps, adding van pool would be, or could be, Laketran's 4th mode of service. We would work with the Ohio Transit Risk Pool to establish insurance coverage. One of the hard pieces right now for especially private companies and transit agencies out west is traditional insurance companies do not want to insure van pools because it's a different mode of service. It's pardon me. It's different because you have a person who does not own the van operating the van. So to them, that's risk. If we were to go with O-Trip, the drivers would potentially be volunteer employees, so they would be covered under our risk pool. So a more further discussion could be with just-in-time staffing. And we would then determine how we would operate our van pool, because there's really a limitless opportunity here as far as, if we wanted it to just be out of park and rides, or we wanted it to, be able to, or wanted people to be able to go to individual houses. So there's really a multitude of different ways that we could operate this service. Next slide, please. So some of the opportunities that we have right now are, we could provide more access to Lake County employers and employees. We would cover second and third shift transportation at a very low cost to Laketran. Some of the risks are insurance and sustainability or growth. So the hardest part about starting a van pool is gathering people to actually want to join a van pool. We have a very unique opportunity right now with just-in-time staffing where they would like us to take over their van pools. So we would be starting out with quite a few employers, employees, passengers for van pools. So what I've wanted to talk to you about tonight is just, if we wanted to continue on looking into this, we can. If not, that's fine as well. So I just wanted to kind of have an open conversation and see what we wanted to do. Yes. Mhm. So I don't have any costs yet because I don't have any insurance coverage costs. We wanted to see kind of what the board wanted to do. If we wanted to go ahead and talk to O-Trip and determine some of those costs, I would have a better opportunity to kind of determine those costs. But right now, not knowing what the insurance would cost is half the battle.
So the reason that we wanted to talk about van pools a little bit today is we've been thinking about this for a long time because it's not easy to run a fixed route bus at every hour of the day, every location that people need employees. So van pools are a way to bridge that gap and provide a lot more flexibility. The hard part about them is defining them is really challenging. So we have been doing research for a while. This sort of came to a forefront. AWT asked us, hey, what kind of things do you have? We have people looking at van pools. So we were sort of approached by AWT by saying, we have companies that want to do this. Can you help us? So we spent some more time talking with them about it. Through those conversations, just-in-time staffing emerged and said, hey, we're doing this, get us out of it. They came here with a lot of enthusiasm that we were going to take over their van pool program that day. And we said, hang on, there's more to it than that. So it's a concept we've looked at over a long period of time. The other reason that it's important, I think, for us to think about right now is as we look at Commuter Express and what its long-term future is, it has recovered more than I expected in the last month. But how do we want to use our organization to connect commuters long-term? I'm not sure Park and Ride is the long-term answer because the office environment, it just isn't the same downtown as it was. We get a lot of demand, a lot of questions about why don't you go down 271? Can you help me on third shift? And all those sort of different things that, traditional transit service might not be the most efficient way to do it. So a van pool is a good way to do it. What Matt said, one of the hardest parts is the momentum to start it. And so we didn't really expect to be having this conversation with the board yet because we wanted to get more information together about it. But just-in-time staffing has a lot of desire for us to do it for them, mainly because they don't have the capacity to handle the demand. They have people they have people and companies saying, hey, we can't get you an employee or we can't get you to work because we don't have the ability. So, the first thing I thought of is, well, if they're doing it, why do we need to? If they're successful with their program, why should we be part of it? But when I heard they had capacity issues, I said, okay, maybe it does make sense for us to get involved. So we are considering putting some money into the budget next year for a pilot program. The benefit is, I think the biggest benefit to a van pool to an organization like ours is it is really cheap because the customers pay the vast majority of the expense to operate the vehicle. We were getting about 50% fare recovery ratio on Commuter Express in its heyday, which is well above the national average for fare recovery. It's usually closer to 15%. Van pools up in the 80s or the 90s. So the amount of money we have to spend out of pocket to provide the service is really low. But there's kind of some risks. Insurance is the most difficult equation to solve. The insurance market is hardening. I'm sure we've all experienced insurance rates going up. It's particularly difficult right now in passenger transportation. Every state on the West Coast does not have access to purchase private insurance for any kind of transit type of work. The insurance companies just won't quote it. So we have been looking into this saying, how would we do it? And the easy answer is the people would sort of be covered under our policy as volunteer employees, which Mike's been doing some research for me about what our workers' comp exposure would be for that, which draws me, I have some concern about that. But this is another, I feel like tonight we've had a lot of topics that are, do you want us to do more investigation? And this one is sort of the same. So I didn't really expect you to make a decision tonight. I'm not asking for you to vote on something or weigh in necessarily. But as we think about this and as we think about potentially doing a pilot next year, or maybe at the very end of this year, I just wanted to, we just kind of wanted to hear if the board had concerns, or, as you sit and I know you all think about buses every day in the shower like I do. So what are those ideas pop in your head while that's taking place, and what things do you think where might be some value, where might be some challenges? The biggest thing with it is it's hard to describe what the heck a van pool is.
Chuck?
Ben, you indicated that it's not a cost covered by the riders on this, so there is some subsidizing by Laketran towards this whole process. And you said some of the just-in-time things were taking people out of the county to Middlefield and other places like that. Is that similar to the situation you have with not being able to take people to the hospital or to medical appointments over in Geauga County also right at this point in time? And is there an opportunity for some of those businesses who are looking for these employees to help supplement some of the costs that would be associated with that? And is this a function that maybe STS could handle?
So to answer some of those questions, it doesn't traditionally cover all of its costs as transit doesn't.
Yeah, you said 80 to 90%, but
Yeah. Van pools are a lot more popular for longer distance trips. Typically, some of the places that Matt visited had fare structures all the way out to a 200-mile one-way commute, which is crazy. So in those situations, it doesn't cover the total cost. If we were to do more investigation and come up with things, it may be that it does cover its total cost or get close to it. So I'm sorry, that was your first question. What were your, trying to remember which other, STS. This probably doesn't fit in STS because the vans can be purchased with federal dollars. So van pool is a recognized component of transit service in the Federal Transit Administration. So we can buy vans with federal dollars. We can maintain and do everything with them we can up with a bus. So having them under the Laketran umbrella makes more sense than STS for financial reasons.
how have some of the other places handled then? If for us, the majority of our money comes from the sales tax within Lake County. I don't know if it would be appropriate to be spending money on this type of program for businesses in Geauga County.
Oh,
So, so how do you get around some of that?
one end of, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize for that. One end of the trip would need to be in Lake County. So it would either need to be Lake County residents going to a business somewhere else, or a business with residents coming from somewhere else. So that would be the way that it's connected to Laketran, just like the commuter express buses take residents from here to downtown Cleveland.
Mhm.
So one end of the trip would have to be here, whether it was the origin or the destination. It would just depend, if a lot of residents wanted to go to downtown somewhere, they could do that on a van instead of a commuter express bus.
So in definition, you could stretch a little bit and say it is more of a commuter express than it is just a taxi service.
Typically, this is sort of, in my opinion, in 15 to 20 years, this might be a replacement for commuter express service. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but fundamentally, a commuter express you could think of it like a giant van pool where you have the same group of people, they come to one location, they all go to the same place. The difference in this case is that we're not paying a bus driver. All we're doing is facilitating sort of a coordination. There's no Laketran employees driving the vans. It would be the employees of the organization drive the van. We would be an aggregator and a provider of the equipment.
So would the group drive the bus to their destination and then just park the bus for the
Yep.
day and then get back on it and come home?
Yes, so the model is that we own the van and say there's 6 people in the van. There's a driver who's been trained by our employees. And this is some of the admin that isn't covered is the training process. So if we're going to cut you loose with a piece of equipment, you're going to go through our training program.
Mhm.
And there's what they typically call a co-captain who drives if the driver is sick. But they do that on their time. They do it because it's cheaper for them than owning a car. So the fee they pay each week, like at Just in Time, they pay $25 a week and they have access to that transportation. So it's cheaper than any of us could do with a car. So their incentive is cheap transportation. Our incentive is I'm not paying a bus driver.
Do the van pools go around to different areas of a city to pick up people to take them someplace then? Or is it people come to a conglomerate area?
There is a huge amount of variability. And that one of the challenges of van pool is just explaining it. And the answer is yes to both. So there are situations where maybe it's, like in the Hispanic community, in some other states, van pools are very popular. So if those don't drive around a lot, they might drive very small distances within the community to pick people up and go to a job. Other places you might have like folks maybe in Menor want to do it and they might all meet at the park and ride and then take the van to a destination. So it's really infinitely flexible, which is one of its great assets. The hardest part about it though is getting it started because getting the mass behind it to make it a program that exists is traditionally very challenging, which is one of the reasons the just-in-time staffing situation is a very unique opportunity where we would have less risk to start something because we're starting with an existing mass. And the nice thing is, so right now, those just-in-time vans are only just-in-time people. If it's a Laketran van pool, those then go on a website and you as a citizen can see the list of all the vans and where they go, and you could sign up to be in that van with the existing group of people. So it opens the service up to a lot more folks. But it's a, like I said, explaining it is tricky, and it's a unique animal that once you get it going, it can work really well, but it is hard to get started.
Have you gotten any feedback from any of the businesses yet that some of these people would be going to or being transported to as to the benefit that they see in it?
I mean,
You haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about it yet, but I'm just.
Well, I was asked to talk at the AWT board meeting about what a van pool is and if we could help. So we sent them a survey about like, hey, this is the information we would need from employees about like, do you want to be part of a van pool? So we're still doing some research, and that process is what led Just in Time to kind of come at us. And we said, okay, now it's, there's enough people talking about this. We need to elevate this to a board discussion. So this isn't necessarily us going out and trying to find people to do a van pool. This is the community coming to us saying we want van pools. So it's a matter of, can we put the pieces together to make it make sense? Most of the need that we have been confronted with is second and third shift employers in Lake County that are trying to find workers from the East Cleveland area. And there are folks that don't have transportation that would take a job, but there's no way to get them from East Cleveland or Euclid to businesses on Tyler
I was
Boulevard.
literally just on a phone call while you guys were in executive session with an employee that works at Orbis on Tyler Boulevard. He starts at 10 and he ends at 6:30. He jumps on our route bus 9 to go home in the morning, but the only way for us to get him there is to drop him off at 8 o'clock at night, and he sits there for 2 hours before his shift starts. So if they have more than one person like that, who has such a need for that 10 o'clock shift, van pool would be an excellent opportunity.
And that's, we wouldn't want to run a fixed route to get 5 people somewhere. So that's where this really could fill some gaps, we think. But it's almost one of those things. I hate this type of thing where you almost have to try it to see if it will work. I'd really rather provide, an analysis and a study that says, hey, look, there's a lot of chance for this to work, but it's kind of like a snowball. You got to have it to use it.
That's the same discussion we had with Route 8 and 9 too, is you gotta implement it.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's transit standard.
It's like starting a business too. I mean, it takes sometimes businesses 3 to 5 years to really know if they're gonna make it.
So we really just wanted to get your juices flowing today, thinking about it. And then, we're gonna try and get a little more, what does it mean if we took over just-in-time staffing's vans? There's a little more to it that we haven't gotten yet, but we're sort of thinking towards putting something in the budget for next year for a pilot program. Unless you're all sitting here like, there will be no vans in Lake County.
I think it's something that he would like to do for. It's been quite obvious to me from him to do it, but you know, it's trying to follow with the payday. And life is changing, the work schedule is different. I need something that's more adaptable. At the same time, sustainability.
Sure.
And this is something that, like a lot of other things we discuss in this room, and I know you will do it, but we just have to pay attention to what our revenue streams are and make sure that we are not growing too quickly to see the money that are coming in. But what I hear you saying is that there's potentially some cost savings by doing it this way, rather than the cost of running a full-blown New York Express program that is not necessarily as effective.
Sure. We spend just about $2 million a year on Commuter Express. So over time, reducing that to van pools could be a lot of money.
Just having been involved in things like this before, I want to just tell you that, first of all, I agree with what Donna and everybody else have been saying about this. First thing to do is just make sure that you have a very exact understanding of what the insurance requirements are going to be on something like this. Who's insured, who's liable, what entity is going to end up being liable. Second thing to keep in mind would be, and again, I'm not being critical of anybody, but if I was the firm that is currently owning these vans and doing this and managing this process, and I could get somebody else to pay for it, that I would be pretty smart to do that. So same with AWT. And so everybody's motivations are honorable. It's really going to be what is the best thing for Lake County citizens, and that's what I would really kind of focus on: the insurance, and all the unknowns and the unknown liabilities that could come along with the insurance aspects of it. So that needs to get nailed down. And then the other thing is that, if you really can recover 80 to 90% of the costs, then it's going to make doing it a benefit for the people of Lake County if you can get more than 100% of the costs. So if that is feasible, that's a kind of a different discussion than funding something that you don't really know what it is. It's going to have a long startup period. So I would kind of look at those two notions together.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on van pooling? Okay, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. And at this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Lisa for June and July financial statements.
Yes, my PowerPoint slide I did for July. I did prepare the June and the July financials, but usually I go over year to date. So if it's okay with the board, I'll just go over July's. And if you have any questions or concerns, all of June will be wrapped up into that. And the big thing that'll be a little bit different than what we had when I presented the May financials is adding all that revenue that we received from all the federal grants for the COVID. So we had the CARES Act and the CRISA and then the American Recovery. So on the first slide, it just says I'm going over July. So this is basically a summary of our revenues year to date for July. And the couple things that I really want to highlight that have kind of changed would be which will be the actual revenue for 2021. It's going to be the federal revenue that we've received year to date. So originally we only budgeted 450,000 because when we prepared this budget last year, we did not know that we were going to be getting all these grants. There was talk about them, but we had no idea what the amounts would be or how many there would be. So year to date, after doing the financials for June and July, we have a total of $5.8 million that we've received in federal grants. And this is mainly going to be from the CRISA grant, the CARES Act one we did receive last year, but there were some extra funds, about $690,000 that we were able to utilize this year for fuel. And I'll explain that more when we go through the expenses. And the American Recovery, we will probably start to draw down on those funds towards the end of this year, probably actually starting in August. We will not be able to draw all of those down. So some of that funding will carry over into next year. But year to date, our total revenues are about $21,911,801. So we've received more than we budgeted by $7,348,000. And the other contribution to this, and I don't want to sound like I'm blaming COVID for everything, but part of this other difference. So if 5.4 million is different over our budget for the federal revenue, the other 1.9 is going to be the sales tax. And really, if you look at, there is a chart in your packet for sales tax, and it kind of defines, you'll see that sales tax kind of grew, not normal numbers. I want to say like April, May, and June. And so you've seen them start out normal, then it kind of peaked, and then it's starting to come back down. So when you see those double digits, I would say that's not normal. If you even, and you can also look, because there's a history in there back to 2011. And I think the highest year was like 6% back in 2011 that it grew. So I just wanted you to keep that in the back of your mind. And then if we can turn to the next page, which will be our expenses. Again, we'll go over the 2021 actual expenses. And again, partially because of COVID, and I kind of stated that when we did the budget that, we were taking our best guess based on our organizational chart and that, and it would depend on our services and how things kind of came back. So our total operating expenses to date are at $10,183,458. So we have spent about $2.7 million less than what we had originally budgeted. And it's kind of a little bit all over the board. So purchase transportation is a good one too, because we didn't know when COVID and when they would start, like the senior centers, I'm not even sure that they're even back up and running yet. So those numbers are down just a little bit compared to what we had estimated. Okay, and then if we could turn to the next chart, that'll kind of summarize up our revenues and expenses. So the total revenues are 21,911,801, and the operating expenses are 10,183,458. And then also our year-to-date capital expenditures year-to-date, that's just our portion of those capital expenditures. We have an income, when we take all that into consideration, we have an income of 8.9 million. And then of course our depreciation with a net income of 6.5 million. So revenues higher than budget due to one-time COVID grants and sales tax and some miscellaneous expense income, because we also got extra money from workers' comp because of that too. And then if we can switch, before I go over the cash balance, does anybody have any questions on our revenues or expenses before I go to our cash balance for this year so far, year to date? Right. So then the next page would be our cash balance. And just so you know, with the cash balance, we have our operating, which we have in our procedures on how we calculate that. So we would keep 7.9 million of our cash balance for our operating. The balance of the capital, this comes off of our capital sheet that is prepared for you that's in the packet. So if we take what we've committed to for 2021 and 2020 and the things that we still haven't paid for yet, and this would be the federal portion and our local portion, we're at 6,044,000. And out of our cash balance with the headquarters, if we were to do it, we would have about 10.1 million right now. And then STS has the 616,000. And then again, as we grow our cash, then that obviously would grow with that. And I kind of have my notes down here defining based on our capital, which has all that detail in there for what those capital expenditures are. And then if we could turn to the next page, which would be for our STS. And again, with STS, we are seeing some movement with the STS a little bit more. I know we've had some of the college and just some outside sources using us. So our revenue, if you look at the two right in the center, 2021 actual revenue, we are at $16,046, which is more than what we were in 20. We based our budget in 21, we did it almost exactly the same as we did for 20, just because we did not know with COVID how things would come back. So we are not quite where we budgeted to be. We're about 10,981 less. But our total expenses obviously will be less too if we're not utilizing, and therefore we're not paying out more expenses and wages and benefits. Our total expenses, which I have to correct my spelling, is at $41,497. So we have spent about $26,761 less than what we had originally budgeted. But there is movement, so that hopes for me that the next year there'll be more movement, more people utilizing that service. And then if we could go to the last page, this is summarize our capital projects as of July. So I broke it out for 2021, our federal portion, our local portion, and our state portion. And prior to 21, because capital projects usually go over more than 1 year. So it shows what our portions are broken out through 2025. And currently our federal portions are at 39.8, our locals at 52, and our states at 8.2%, for a total of $50,035,604 is what we have in projects right now through 21 through 25. And most of that's going to be vehicles. And the other piece that's estimated in here would be the headquarters piece in 2022. And some of that we did spend this year because of the just doing the plans and stuff like that. I don't have anything else unless anybody has any questions or concerns.
Is there a motion to approve the June 2021 financial statements subject to audit? Motion made by Ms. McNamee,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Zibble. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee,
Yes.
Nunley,
Yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the July 2021 financial statements subject to audit? Motion made by Mr. Sheets, seconded by Ms. McNamee. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee,
Yes.
Nunley,
Yes.
Sheets, Zibble.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And at this time, I am going to turn the meeting over to our legal counsel to discuss the motion that was made during the last meeting regarding WSP.
Thanks, Brian. This is Brandon. I'll go ahead and chime in if everybody can hear me okay.
Perfect.
So this is just a means of kind of cleaning up what was done previously so there's no inconsistencies. The board will recall that there was a resolution which entered into the WSP contract. I just feel it's appropriate to further upon the motion made by the board at this time to now have a formal resolution authorizing the CEO's action to terminate that contract.
Okay, thank you very much, Brandon.
Thank you.
At this time, is there a motion authorizing the CEO or his designee to terminate the agreement with WSP USA Inc. for the strategic planning services?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Nunley. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Epic. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee,
Yes.
Nunley,
Yes.
Sheets, Zibble.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We have officially terminated the agreement with WSP. Thank you for your help, Brandon. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Tony to talk about, I apologize, Mr. Sheets.
Did we ever pay these people anything?
I will defer to Ben and Lisa. If we did pay them, how much have we paid WSP?
We did pay them. It was based on a monthly invoicing process, so that we did pay them for work performed. I called them and canceled the agreement the day after the board had the meeting. So we paid them what we were due through that time period. I want to say it's around $24,000. I don't remember the exact number. We can email that to you, but we did pay them through the work they had completed. I got from them what work they had completed. So kind of.
Okay, so to clarify, they were paid for their work performed on their monthly billing at this point.
Yeah, the final payment, I believe, has been issued, and they were paid through August. What was the date of the meeting? I can't remember what the date of the meeting was. It was August 5th. They were paid through August 5th.
Okay. Is that what you were looking for? Okay, thank you. And at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Tony to talk about a one-year extension with Cornerstone Inc.
Good evening. I just wanted to go over the managed service agreement that we signed with Cornerstone last year. There's 3 one-year agreements with an option to renew in September of each term of the contract. This is our first renewal for year 2. Want to start off with talking about Laketran and Cornerstone and the relationship that we have together. It's over a 20-year working relationship. They started out with us as a software developer doing an access application to track driver hours for us internally. After that, it progressed to be our IT services. And then they graduated years later into a full service MSP, basically Laketran's IT department in a box, if you would have it. And externally and internally, they were viewed as our IT department, and they provided a one-stop support and network as a full IT department for Laketran, with remote access being the main way of getting their job done. Some of the other headlines that we have is they actually brought us onto email back in the early 2000s. That Laketran.com was defined, and we actually had our first email server care of Cornerstone back then. So IT, its next chapter. Where we're at in 2020, other than the year of COVID, there's some things that happened around here in IT. We had our first IT employee post-levy. We now have internal ownership of all of our IT resources, both hardware, software, and planning of such. Along with that, we have a hybrid approach. There is myself, who takes care of all our line of business applications, Trapeze, TripSpark, Masabi. And then if it says Microsoft on it, I defer that to Cornerstone, because they are the experts in Microsoft and taking care of the servers and the desktops. They still continue to do our backup disaster recovery, and they will support all of the legacy software that we use inside. And the business relationship has worked well to date. I mean, I've been here a little over a year, and I do what I do that is unique to Laketran and all the things that we do. And they take care of all the Microsoft products that are in a box. So. Transit and IT, I mean, you would think that computers and buses don't belong together in the same sentence. I didn't think that personally when I started here. The lesson I learned after 42 years in IT and what transit and IT can do together. People think that those are buses out there. They're really not buses. We have about 150 server rooms. So those are wirelessly connected back to HQ, transmitting data constantly, being vehicle location, mapping, routing, fares. I mean, you name it, it's in there. And the simple things in life that'll be the ones that'll get you. That's like, if you don't think a server touches every part of your life, try to be a vehicle getting in the gate outside of the building if the server goes down. It's not going to happen. Fluid management for all of our vehicles, that is all tied back to a server. Fleet maintenance for all of our vehicles, tied back to a server. So along with that, I mean, the good things that have come out of this is the first true paperless office around here is a bus with Masabi with our electronic fares. So it does it with your smartphone and reading a QR code. The responsibility I have is for TripSpark and Trapeze. A lot of people in the business world will understand, customer relationship management and enterprise resource planning. Those are our key packages to those are to transit as those other applications are to the manufacturing and business sector. And even fixing a bus has got its IT portion. We have guys back there that have $30,000 worth of Snap-on tools in a toolbox. And that used to be their mission critical tool. Well, now, guess what? It's a laptop. Because every one of the buses, being electric or gas or propane, all have manufacturers' tools on board for diagnostics and troubleshooting that integrate into a laptop. And without that, you're done. So with that being said, how do we work together and what have we done? So in 2021, we're just showing it how to get it done around here with Cornerstone and myself. And this is a sampling of some of the projects that we've done to date. We actually completed the opening of the 2 new transit centers. And in there is connectivity back to headquarters with a centralized way to manage security, card access, and electric bus logistics. We completed an upgrade of all of our line of business application servers from Trapeze and TripSpark. And that was a major effort. And along with the other servers that are on there is all of our Microsoft servers. And there are 28 servers right now that it takes to keep this place running on a daily basis. And that project, I said, would be completed on August 31st. And we made it, barely, but we did make it. All those servers were shut off. And we are now running on a modern, homogeneous Microsoft platform that is supported. And all of the 2008 out-of-dated servers are gone. Back in the garages with the mechanics using the Wi-Fi, we had some obsolete Wi-Fi and the mechanics were having a very difficult time getting proper signal to use their laptops everywhere in the garage to work on the buses. That got upgraded and the mechanics can now use their laptops anywhere in the service bays and in the parts department. And hopefully before the snow flies this year, they'll be able to use it out at the fuel island when they need to reclaim the propane out of a bus and put it back. And then the last and final project we worked on as a team is all of the outdated Windows 8 workstations that were here still on site when I came on board. Those will be hopefully by the end of October, will be completely done. We've got 34 done today. And that once again gets us onto a globally supported platform by Microsoft and clean up a lot of the headaches that we've had through the upgrade process. why use a managed service provider? So Cornerstone has its advantages. Number one being is two heads are better than one. They have a team of people. They have engineers and staff on board. So not everyone knows the answer to everything, but if you get quite a few people together, you can solve anything. They hold multiple partnerships and certifications with a lot of the hardware and software vendors that are used here at Laketran. They have a long history of standing as being a partner with us with a wealth of knowledge of how we do things around here. And being located right here in Mentor, they are a phone call and literally 10 minutes away if we need them in case of an emergency. So to go to the flip side of that coin, what are the disadvantages to having an MSP on board? Well, MSPs are usually modeled to small to medium-sized businesses with generic IT needs. I use Microsoft Office, I use email, and I use Windows. Well, that's a fraction of what we use here. I mean, the majority of our needs are specialized pieces of software and systems, no matter what department you're in. MSPs typically have a very, very high turnover rate. It goes for younger individuals just breaking into the IT sector and looking to build their resume. So they start with an MSP, get some experience under their belt, and they're down the street for the next person that'll give them a $5,000 raise. Being a customer, it's difficult to achieve consistency in this, that you won't have the same person supporting you from month to month or year to year. And retraining of these people assigned to your account can be costly as a result of these turnover processes. Where I stand as a recommendation at this point is the relationship has worked to date. And I would like to extend the IT contract with Cornerstone through September of next year, 2022. The rate goes up 3% over last year's rate. We were at $3,600 a month. And now it'll be $3,710. This is a decrease from what we had when I started here, because we were at $45.33 per month initially. We negotiated it down with me being on board. We buy less hours per month, and we negotiated the cost of the backup down because we bought our hardware out of the lease, saving us an additional $12,000 a year. Along with that, I would like to continually evaluate the performance and project outcomes during this time. And we continually work and meet on a regular basis towards refining the goals and responsibilities of each party and what we can do to make this work better. So with that being said, I would like to go forward with them, and we are a data-centric business here. We move massive amounts of data through this organization for having less than 200 people. And we are a very time-sensitive business by design. We have to be someplace at some time. And the responsiveness of the IT department, both internally and externally, will be even greater in time as more and more things become IT focused and dependent. So, any questions?
Yes. You say you're done with the implementation of the software that we bought a couple of years ago?
The server upgrade?
Yeah.
Yes, it is complete.
Why did that take 2 years?
So that was started in 19 before I was hired,
I understand that.
and there was,
So we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars 2 years ago to implement a system that was supposedly going to help us do scheduling better, make the system a lot faster. And here it is 2 years later, or however long it was, some length of time like that. And it took the end of August to get that done. Is that not correct?
yes,
Okay, well, that doesn't sound like they've done a very good job of supporting our system. That's a little ridiculous. at least in my mind. I don't know, I don't get it. And also we haven't, as the people that did our audit, I believe it was the audit people, we've never done a disaster backup. Why is that? That's something that we should do, should have done a long time ago. I mean, I don't know that these people are doing what we're asking them to do. I don't know. I think we ought to get another company that to help us out here. I don't care if they've been here 20 years. I guess maybe they're getting used to being able to do as little as possible and get paid. I don't get it. The 34 servers are running Windows 8. Windows 10's been out for what, 5 years? How long? Long time. It doesn't seem like they're keeping up with the industry here either.
Well, I mean, in their defense, I mean, that was all that was left that wasn't upgraded to Windows 10. The majority of the platforms and workstations here were running Windows 10. A lot of the old servers that were running 2008, that is what Trapeze spec'd at that point. So, I mean, that we pushed the issue. It's like, what version of Trapeze do we need to be on to be running at least server 2012, if not 2016? So, I mean, they did not come back and they weren't forthcoming with that upgrade information. I mean, in defense of myself and Cornerstone, I mean, in the middle of this, there was hardware problems getting the hardware here. There was a levy that needed to be passed and Laketran was working on, more focused on that. I started here in February, COVID hit. We had to come up with remote access solutions to get people to work remotely. This room needed to be put together. We didn't have a way to do a Zoom meeting when I started here.
Well, the money was available before we got approved and available before we passed any levy. That's just not true. I don't know why we had any trouble getting hardware. Seems to me it was readily available.
Well, there was an initial approval by the board in April, and then going through the project and the purchase orders throughout there, it looks like there were switches that were necessary that weren't ordered as part of the initial quote that were added like in September or October. I mean, the switches weren't there to implement.
Well, again, why wasn't that included in the original hardware purchase if it was needed?
The easiest answer to that is we were operating without an IT person for too long. The complexity of the world we live in was managed by me as the operations manager and then Matt. And Matt and I know enough about IT to be dangerous. We're not IT professionals. And so there was.
But Ben, you were still paying those people to look over your shoulder and tell you what to do, and they didn't do it.
But there is time required on both ends of the equation. And we did our best. We could have done a better job. I think we've all said we could have done a better job. Part of doing a better job.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking more about Cornerstone IT. They should have been on top of that for you. That's what you were paying them for.
They don't have complete control of that because of our relationship with Trapeze. Trapeze contractually will work with no one but the organization. That is dumb, I understand. That is how they do their contracting industry-wide. Trapeze is a great product. It is also a source of more frustration than I can verbalize. And that is the major hurdle. And I know Tony can talk about, his time in IT and never, I imagine, has worked with a company quite like Trapeze. So I know you and I had talked throughout the server process, and I told you at the time, and I will say it now, that we would have liked to have gotten it done sooner. It was more of a project than we realized. It was more of a hurdle than we realized. And I can guarantee if Ray Paganini were here, he would tell you he lost a lot of money on that project because it was more work than he expected. So, and that is because when we wrote things and did things, we did not, as an organization, possess the expertise needed to help do some of that. And we did our best to tell Cornerstone what we needed, but we have to be the owner. And that's what Tony has given us, is an ownership of our IT that we didn't have as robust as we do now.
Well, as I said before, they didn't do their job as far as helping us out. And if Trapeze is going to continue to be as even if they only work with the people in the organization, you still can have the people that you're paying this other money for come in and help you do it and then tell them what you want to do. It's not like Cornerstone can't say what they think it should be done. I mean, Trapeze is complicit with this then also, because Trapeze, from what you've told me, for the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year we pay those people, I think we're getting a raw deal.
Yeah, I mean, Trapeze is, as I said, is a frustration for all of us. Transit software in general, and you and I have lamented about this, is, how do I say it politically correct? You know,
It's a gouge. How's
Sure.
that?
It is, you know, we are a custom solution. They know that they have a captive customer and they treat us that way. And it's very frustrating. I totally understand your frustration and I have expressed it myself lots of times around the building. But when presented with a choice, there isn't another one unless we hired people to write our own software, which is not practical. So we play the hand we're dealt. But as far as Cornerstone doing their job and their performance, I think Cornerstone has done the best job they could in the situation provided, where you have a difficult vendor to work with. And on our end, we don't have someone committing as much time as we could have pre-Tony. And that's a Laketran, you know, that's a Laketran problem to start off. Is we needed, you know, most of our counterparts have IT departments with 3 or 4 employees. Agencies our size are smaller. And I'm not suggesting we need to do that, but we were behind the 8 ball and Tony has spent most of his time cleaning up the mess. And Cornerstone has been a valiant partner with him to clean up that mess. And
Well,
it's
they
not
made the
been-
mess.
What?
They must have made the mess. Or they watched it being made. They weren't doing their job. As an IT consultant for this organization, they just didn't do it. I think we need to get a different company in here.
I mean, you sat down with me and Tony and evaluated Cornerstone the first time. And this is the company we picked a year ago. And they held up all their end of the bargain up until now. So, you know, I mean, we can go through another procurement, but we will most likely end up in a similar situation to where we are now, where we all sit at the table and agree that Cornerstone is the better vendor because we did it a year ago.
We didn't have the history that we have now a year ago that I was aware of. I can't vote for hiring Cornerstone again.
What's wrong with trying to evaluate another competitor to Cornerstone? What's the problem with doing that?
There's not a problem to do that. We went through a very extensive process when we hired them for this project. Their contract expires at the end of this. When does it expire? The end of this month. So if we don't, we did not anticipate a struggle with a contract renewal. So we did not begin the procurement process in advance, which you would usually take. Andrea, how long?
We need to post it, excuse me. It needs to be out on the street for 30 days. It would take time for Tony and I to redevelop a request for proposal. We need time to evaluate the proposals that are received. So typically, 5 to 10 business days to really, understand what we're looking at. The absolute earliest that a procurement could be given to the board is maybe November, but more likely December. So we would be operating either on a month-to-month with Cornerstone until that point, or be without their help at all, which, I use all those Microsoft products and that makes me a little nervous in case I can't get to my email or Excel or something. So it would take some time to get a procurement on the street and then before the board.
Yeah, it ends the end of the month.
In 3 days.
Does Cornerstone currently hold the backup disaster recovery for us?
So what they do is we use a third-party provider called Datto. And Dado does the backup and they do the disaster recovery, where in the event of a failure over here, they can bring up to 4 of our servers in the cloud that we can operate a virtual server outside of this building.
So we're good with that now?
Right now we
One
are,
or the
yes.
other? Okay, so.
And now, in Lane's defense, I've asked for that to get tested and it has not been tested yet. I mean, they've been told
Is
it will.
that a weekly thing that they would do is run a backup or how?
Well, it's backed up daily.
Daily?
Every night it's backed up. I mean, everything, all the servers are backed up every night.
Is that something you could test in the next 3 days and tell?
Well,
them?
we just did test it because we went through the server upgrade and some people had some data that was missing. So we had to pull down all the backups from the night before. And I have those here on site. So if there is a discrepancy in data, we can get it back. But the disaster recovery thing, where if the building
Yeah.
for some reason is leveled, how do we continue Laketran? And that's, that's where you have to do.
That's never been tested, has it?
That has not been tested yet. No, it has not. And I had requested that as part of the RFP. And with staffing changes and everything else that happened on Cornerstone's end, I didn't have a consistent group of people to go through that test. So that's one of they know with they just hired some new engineers. That is one of my things that's on the table. I need that tested.
Right. I saw on one of the slides too, it looked like there was over 300 something hours, which is what they're contracted for the following contract, about 75 hours a quarter.
Yes.
What is their rate after all that is
So
used up?
if you go outside of contract, I believe they're at 172.50 an hour.
So 80 hours over is over $13,000 that we paid supplemental. So is this,
Well, no, they had a flat rate for the server project, so there was no additional,
even though they put in more hours?
yes.
Okay.
They quoted a flat rate for the whole project and completed it at that rate without charging us anything extra for the overage.
Okay, my question was just to ask around that, then if that was enough hours and what you're asking for, is 300 hours still sufficient a year?
I mean,
Do you have any big projects coming up that you foresee?
you have a couple that it's like, I mean, can I make it work? Yes. I mean, we've did this, we're a year into this at this hourly rate. I mean, call it 25 hours a month. So that's
Yeah,
3 days.
yeah.
I mean, it's worked to this point.
Okay, all right, that was my question. Thank you.
So what is the criteria that's used to determine job performance? And for example, I oversee our third-party technology vendor at the law firm. And one of the metrics I look at is how quickly was a ticket resolved? Because obviously the only thing we're selling in my office is time. So that's a huge metric for us. What type of metrics do you look at to judge if they're doing a good job or they're not doing a good job?
So to go back to that, I mean, probably the time it takes to close a ticket. Was it closed successfully? Because I actually use an internal ticketing system in here that if people need and have an IT service request. There's an online form that I have people fill out. And if it's something that's Microsoft related, I can forward that form to Cornerstone and track their progress internally on our end. The project and how it ran. I mean, we're going to have a debrief session later this week about how that server upgrade went. And we're going to talk about the good things that happened and some of the not so good things that happened and how are we going to fix that. And I try to keep it as a two-way avenue that we're constantly talking to each other so we can build something that's better than what we had before. Because there wasn't anybody internally that owned it. I mean, I've been in IT for 42 years and I take pride in the fact of what we have here and what we can build, and it's ours. I mean, without that ownership, I mean, why would anybody care? And that's the thing I'm trying to push to Cornerstone is this is what I need and this is what we deserve and this is what we pay for. So I mean, that's my big push. So
Tony, did we pay them extra for this project over and above the initial?
no,
Rate?
it was.
No,
fixed.
no, we had a monthly rate.
Yes.
Did we pay them more to do the upgrade project?
No, that the labor to complete the upgrade project was outside of our 25 hours per month.
I understand that. Did we have,
So Tony wasn't here when that happened, so he probably doesn't know. Yes, there was, we paid a pre-agreed upon amount of labor and hardware for the project overall when the board originally approved it. So the labor that we paid to Cornerstone for the server project, part of the board approval that was done in 19. There was nothing beyond that, but there was labor inside that.
okay, that's my question.
Any other questions or comments for Tony? At this, yes,
If that's the company that you're liking and you want to move forward with them, hold them to the fire of what is expected and what needs to get done, because I don't want to put you out in 3 days. But over the next year, like, let's really make sure that all this stuff is done that they're contracted to do,
Right.
especially with the disaster recovery.
Disaster
Let's get that
recovery
done.
is number one, because I mean, that's business continuity. So
at this time, is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the CEO or his designee to enter into a 1-year contract extension with Cornerstone Incorporated? Motion made by Ms. McNamee. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Nunley. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee,
Yes.
Nunnally,
Yes.
Sheets, Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mike for a Laketran policy manual presentation.
Periodically review the Laketran policy. Sorry, is that better? Okay. We review the Laketran policy manual throughout the course of the year, and typically we bring it to you about once a year. It was 364 days ago was the last time we did this. Since that time, there have been a few changes. June 17th of 21, Congress approved the Public Law 117-17, establishing Juneteenth National Independence Day, which is June 19th of every year, as the 6th federal holiday. Difference between federal holidays and national holidays. The national holidays are Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, those holidays. Federal holidays would be the ones Columbus Day, Veterans Day, President's Day, and now this one. So prior to this being passed, they did it on a Thursday and it took effect on a Saturday. Imagine that. Prior to the this happening, that schedule was not included in the current policy manual. Also, with regard to holidays, prior to the collective bargaining agreement, which began October 1st of 20 through September 30th of 2023, the one we're in right now, part-time employees had not been eligible for holiday pay. According to section 2602 of the current collective bargaining agreement, part-time employees are now granted holiday pay for New Year's Day and for Independence Day. Our public records policy was updated on August 25th of 2020. The current policy does not include a section identifying primary and secondary public records custodians or their duties. So the Ohio Auditor of State's Office's best practices recommend identifying and including the primary and secondary custodians and their associated duties. The board approved Laketran's Public Transit Agency Safety Plan, or PTASP. You might remember that from 3 months ago. There's a safety management policy statement that is not included in the current policy manual. The DOT issued a bulletin updating Title VI notice to the public for FTA recipients in May of 2020, and including poster requirements for limited English proficiency language groups. Those are defined as groups who constitute either 5% or 1,000, whichever is less, of a population of persons eligible to be served or likely to be affected by Laketran services. Lake County's LEP population is 6,211 according to the last census, or 2.7%. So that requires that this notice be posted in languages that meet this threshold, and for us in Lake County, that's Spanish. The current Title VI notice is posted in the lobby and on bulletin boards, but it's only in English. It is available for public inspection, but this would add a Spanish version of that to this. The financial policies section is not included in the policy manual itself. The recommendation from our triennial review and from the auditor's office is that it be included in the Laketran policy manual. Right now, it stands alone. We're simply moving it into the policy manual from where it is now. So when we look back, there's going to be 5 policies that are affected by this: the holidays, the public records policy, the safety management policy statement, the Title VI notice, and the financial policies. So policy manual should be updated to include Juneteenth, the granting of the part-time employees holiday pay, the revised public records and policy that identifies the primary and secondary custodians and their duties, and the policy and the safety management policy statement in the PTAS. It just reaffirms safety as a core value of Laketran, and that managing safety is a critical business function of this agency. The Title VI notice should include the Spanish version and also posted in the lobby and bulletin boards. And the financial policies, the recommendation from the Federal Triennial Review in the State Office is that the State Auditor's Office is that it be included. So what we're asking is the authorization of a resolution to update the policy.
Any comments or questions for Mike? At this time, is there a motion to approve the updates to the Laketran policy manual? Motion made by Ms. McNamee. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Epic. Vicky, if you could please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee,
Yes.
Nunley,
Yes.
Sheets, Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ben for both the 6-month look ahead and the CEO report.
So I will move quickly, I guess, in light of time. Does anyone have any questions about the 6-month look ahead that was in your board packet? So I'll skip that. Just a reminder, if you ever see something on there that you're curious about, you want more information about, or maybe you don't like, feel free to reach out to me to have a discussion in case, we want to move it or change it or something like that. It's there to hopefully stimulate thoughts and discussions.
I
Sure.
just say something to that. 100-something page board packet is really quite muddy. If we could shorten that to high-level summary of everything we're going to talk about, that would be super helpful.
Okay. Moving on. We'll see how we can maybe create some more brevity. Yeah, now that we have Govenda, I think we have some other options for where to put things that people might be able to access them easily versus having to put them in a packet. So as we have been learning how to use that platform, that might be a good place to direct you for more information you'd like to acquire. I'll go through this quickly. Headquarters renovation, I had a conversation with Bowen, and let them know things were on hold pending the committee action. WSP, as I mentioned, I called and terminated their agreement with them the day after the board met. I think you all probably noticed I've been sending out what I've been trying to get is about a weekly email to the board, just with kind of topics and things going on. I would love some feedback to let me know if that is positive or if it's cluttering up your inbox, or if there's another way I can get you, a lot goes on here, more goes on here than I can easily kind of give to you in a board meeting. So I was trying to find additional ways to get information out there that you could review at your schedule and just think about a little bit. So I'd love to know if those are beneficial or annoying. Either way, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. They are all in Govenda in the board update section. So if you don't want to sift through your email, you can easily go there. They're organized by date, so you can find them. I know how challenging it is to manage an inbox sometimes. So, or if there is another topic you're interested in of like, what is Laketran doing with this? Let me know. I kind of keep a little running list on my computer of stuff that I think might be interesting to you guys, and try to send it out. I'm going to continue to try to send it out about once a week, unless, I'm at a conference or something's happening, then it might not come out quite that frequently, but I want to try and provide you a little more information over a longer period of time versus getting hit with giant chunks all at once. Electric buses, we are well into the commissioning process. Things are going pretty much how we expected. It's a process to get a bus into service, no matter how it's powered. It takes a lot of sort of shakedown period for all the systems to kind of start working together. The electric buses have been a little bit more of that because they're more complicated, but things are going well. Right now, there are 4 in service on a daily basis out of the 10 as we sort of develop the battery memory, which was something we didn't realize was going to be as critical as it is. The other weird thing, I know I sent one of my emails, is that we had the charger installed in Painesville and everything went just as we expected, until we were notified by Painesville Power that they put a transformer in that had the wrong input voltage. So the voltage coming out of it to our stuff was correct, but the voltage that it wanted from the grid was wrong. So they said, we're going to buy a new transformer and put it in. Wasn't something that we had any control over, wrote a spec wrong. It was all sort of on them. About a week after we heard that, they said, never mind, we're going to rewire part of downtown Painesville. And I kind of looked at them and I said, that is an interesting outcome. Which they must have had it on their maintenance plan, but they are working towards that. They tell us that it will be done mid-October and everything continues to be on schedule. So they did not have to change the transformer out. So there's no additional cost to us other than sort of, we're having to wait about 30 days longer than we would have liked to. But that was through no fault of our own. Kind of an interesting scenario. We got a lot of positive feedback about the ribbon cutting for the Frank Politka Transit Center. Universally, everybody said that they thought it was great, that it was, that honored Frank. They all did kind of mention, maybe Frank could have talked a little less, but it went well. And we got a lot of people saying, that's a great facility, very happy to see it. The Wickliffe Transit Center, we expect the facility is kind of wrapping up some odds and ends this month, but we expect a ribbon cutting in October or November. And I put van pulling on here more for a executive or a CEO report versus you already heard the presentation, so we don't talk about it anymore. So does anybody have any questions about anything going on? Oh, wrote myself a note, don't want to forget. I know you all have heard about the infrastructure bill that has been on the news a lot recently. We have been told expect 40% more funding than we currently receive in federal dollars in our formula. So we receive just under $3 million a year right now. We should expect to see 40% more than that if the bill passes as is. And then we're being told by quite a bit of people to really think creatively because there's going to be a very high amount of money available. So what projects could you do at a regional or local level that would be very impactful? So I don't have any of those projects in my head at the moment. I've been trying to relay that information to our community partners. If the county or a city or somewhere has a project that we are a part of that might benefit from the transit or from the infrastructure bill, is there a way we can creatively partner together to do something? It's still, all we're being told is expect a lot of money. So, which, no, it's not. I mean, it's, I will keep my political commentary to the side, but we just received a lot of money in the COVID relief packages. I'm sort of surprised that there is another huge pile of money that is coming our way. But that's not up to me to make those decisions. That's way above my my pay grade. So I just deal the hand I'm dealt. As we learn more, I'll keep the board informed. That is it for my report, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Ben. The next section of our meeting is old business, and I do want to report that in regards to the building project 4 board members volunteered to be on a building committee. So those 4 members will be on the committee. Those members that volunteered were Gary, who's not able to be with us today, Chuck, Lane, and Donna. And Gary will be the committee chairman. He would like to get together with Brandon and I, and we will be turning the committee over to Gary to lead it and help get a direction for what we would like to do, if anything, with the headquarters building project. Was there any other old business in the room? Is there any new business? At this time, is there a motion to adjourn today's meeting? Motion made by Ms. McNamee. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded by Mr. Zibble. Vicky, please call the roll.
Epic,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McNamee, Nunley,
Yes.
Sheets, Zibble.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 6:24.